Make sure we're recording here. Where are you located?
Currently right now I'm in just outside of Chicago.
Oh, okay. Nice. Is that
What
where
about you?
I'm down in southern New Mexico, pretty close to the Mexico border, but I'm originally
Cool.
from Missouri, southern Missouri.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. What about you originally?
I was born in New Orleans and then lived in St. Louis for like a couple years and then moved down to Florida and was in Florida for basically first grade through college. And then after that, just kind of bounced around different places, and I gone. So
St. Louis, I know that's where Matty Woods is from, and you've linked up with him a bunch. How did you all
Right.
get together and start working on projects?
I was in college at FSU, and this was when like Apple Music came out, and I just was listening to fucking playlist generated for me, and I heard Matty for the first time. I was like, oh my god, like this dude's fucking absolutely ridiculous. It was like I just, as soon as I heard it, it was like the same type of feeling that I got when I first heard Wiz and stuff like that. And not even drawing the comparison to their music, more so to how enthusiastic I was about the sound. You know what I mean? It was just like, this guy gets it. And like, it was probably, I don't know, just driving around in my car listening to the same project over and over and over again. And then I was like working at a fucking, Nuke's restaurant and just, working 10 to 2, and I'd walk listening to his shit, work the whole shift, and then listen to his shit on the way back. So it's just like on some fan shit, honestly, when I found, his first kind of projects and stuff. So, and then I just reached out. He had like posted on Twitter, need beats or whatever, and just sent a fucking email like my final year of college basically, and like I didn't hear shit back for a few months, and then he just DM'd me out of the blue and was like, yo, did you send me this beat? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, here, listen to this shit. And he sent me some demo, and I was like, oh my god, like this is gonna be crazy. So that's kind of how I first came into hearing his stuff and then reaching out with him and going there. We obviously started working a bunch. So
What was the process of making beats like for you when you first started?
when I first started, or for Matt?
Just when you first started as a producer, day one.
It was honestly out of like necessity. I was in high school and just rapping for fun, like to like relieve stress from like the school program and stuff. And I just got sick of rapping the same fucking beats over and over again. And like feeling like I'm just remaking other people's songs, or like you already hear their flow. So like you're going to be kind of forced in a way to, like, obviously you can come up with something else, but like it's never going to be your shit. So kind of just getting sick of listening to the same fucking 20 beats that I had on a CD at the time, because I didn't even have MP3 on my car. So it was like I just got over it. And I was working at TJ Maxx at that time. Like it was my first job ever. And every fucking shift I would have like a little lunch break at the little sandwich shop next door. And like all the guys there were in college and were making beats and shit. And like I randomly told them I could freestyle, and they're like, bro, you should start making beats for your own freestyles and stuff. So it was like, that was the first time I ever looked into it. Started to just pull up, downloaded like Fruity Loops for Mac demo at the time. You couldn't even save the beat or export. Like you would just have to export it. You couldn't save it. So every time you opened up the project, you have to re-fucking start, and you couldn't save shit. So it was just like, I was hooked. But I hated the program, and I just couldn't make good music. So I ended up getting frustrated with it and kind of just like stopping. And then eventually that Christmas, I found out about a different software called Machine by Native Instruments. And it's like a fucking, this basically, this, but on an iPad. All these little buttons was on my iPad, and you would just make beats with this. And so that was like my first interaction where like oh my God, like I can really make some fucking music with it. And it was on an iPad. So like I basically used the shit out of it and then saved up my money and fucking bought this bitch. And then that was pretty much it, you know? So from there is like learning the ground up from this thing was a huge learning curve. Like it was frustrating as hell, like a lot of frustration, and just like you have the ideas, and like I knew that I'd be able to make really good stuff, but for the first like several years, it's like it's never going to be a finished product for me. At least it was never like a fully, wow, that's like that can go out now and like do solid on its own. Like it was always like missing the final element, more so like probably like professionalism, but like the ideas were there, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it was just like a lot of fucking trial and error, making beats on my iPad, making beats on my Mac, all on the same software, and just going back and forth and stuff. So until like I kind of found out my sound, but that took fucking years, you know what I mean? Like, so.
What went into that making of your sound? Because from the first time I've heard you, and again, like you said, not to make comparisons, but it's very trippy, soulful, chill, kind of along the lanes of Sledgerin, Cardo, producers like that. What went into
Right.
sort of your sound selection and the way that you produce?
For sure. I would say the very first ingredient I would say is definitely like my family influence. Like Parker Jazz is my real name. I was born in New Orleans. I've listened to
Wow.
jazz music every Sunday with my family since as my earliest memory is listening to fucking jazz and like R&B soul. Like my parents listened to some like really, really cool stuff. My mom especially, my mom and my dad, honestly. So like they like put me on to so many different sounds. Like I my mom was the first person to play rap music for me. Like for like when I, Easter, like not Easter, fucking Tooth Fairy shit. She gave me like Bow Wow CD for losing my front tooth,
Wow.
and
That's
like
cool.
Grits for losing my other front tooth, and like all these like and shit that you would not expect from like my mom, like based on like who she is and stuff. Like she seems like a square, and then she listens to the most like crazy stuff, and then like Green Day, reggae, lots of reggae, Dave Matthews, like rock, all I had the full gamut, so but really at the crux of it, jazz and stuff ended up being really there. And it's funny because I did not like it for a long time. Like I wanted to change my middle name in first grade from jazz to rap. Like I really wanted, like I asked my mom to do that, and she was like, I'm sorry, like we're not gonna do that. Like you can keep listening to Nelly, but you don't need to fucking change your middle name. And so like I don't know, like I didn't like jazz for a bit, and then out of nowhere it just like grabbed me towards in high school, and then like really just like sunk in with like bossa nova and that kind of sound. So like that kind of heart influence, plus like my high school years of listening to all those producers that you just listed, obviously Cardo, GOAT in every possible way you can define the word for a producer, not only just with the whiz sound, but with what he's done beyond that. He's just so versatile, and his ability to create, insane mainstream hits and then even better underground hits is just like, while having a family and doing that whole element, it's like insane inspiration. So like definitely he inspired me sonically, but beyond that for sure as well. And then like all that influenced with just the artist that you're working with, because like starting to tap in with Matty, like that totally shifted my focus, because like I was not just making soulful shit, I was making totally random, like even trippy shit, with no soul, just straight like trippiness. And then like acoustic stuff with like a guitarist, like indie style music, and like all I didn't know which direction I was gonna be going sonically, you know what I mean? And I still fuck with all those sounds. It's just really at the forefront when I was getting going, I was like, what is my sound And I literally moved to Long Beach after school to find my sound. I like told my parents that I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do, but I earned a year. You know, I'd like graduated early and had like a year of saved up money from like my scholarships and shit to just fucking go out and write shit. And I didn't know what sound I was going to be working on. And this was before I'll Be Fine came out with Matt or anything. And like, or like we had the single out, but not the project. And I just like, I had no idea what to expect. So I just like kind of moved out working with that indie sound. And then the rap shit became like my focus, obviously, as we started doing more records and like putting it out and getting the response that we got. Like it at least was like, I was like, okay, I need to double down on this. Like, not to say that the indie side isn't something I'm interested in, but it's just, it wasn't going to propel me to where I needed to be, you know? So, and it also worked double because I love rap music more anyway. So it's like, it fell right into my lap. So, but the jazz sound, it honestly, what I think of now for my sound as far as like what I've put out my catalog wise, that really just came from a lot of family influences. And then also my shit that I listen to, and then the artists I work with, to be summed up, really.
Yeah. I've seen your playlist that you have on your YouTube channel, which is all of your placements. And
Yeah.
I want to pivot into the entrepreneurship and professional side of things.
Sure.
You mentioned working with artists, which I feel like a lot of these guys who are on YouTube making type beats or on their Beat Stars, they want to get to that point that you're at, which is where you're making beats and successful label artists are getting on them and putting them out for everybody to listen to. What was that process like for you, going from beginner working on your iPad to then step by step getting on Netflix and Top Boy?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was honestly, it seems like you change everything, but really it's just snowballing on top of what you're doing before. Like, just because a lot of even like to speak on that end point, like that record was old as fuck, and like that beat is even older, and the melody's even older. So it's like shit just takes a minute sometimes to like get to where it needs to be. So, but I mean, basically, like when I first moved out and was starting to get some sort of records, for me, I really like, I wanted to become, you know, successful or whatever, in the sense of like be able to create and not stress about if I'm going to eat tomorrow. You know what I mean? So like, first and foremost, that was the focus. So I had to first get my fucking channel going and get some fucking actual sales coming in, you know, because like I was honestly reluctant to even make a type beat channel. I was against it because I felt like, I was like, oh, that's gonna suck my soul away or drain my creativity. And I felt like putting a type beat label on my beat was like, like almost like against the artistry. Like, but then I realized, then when you fucking get out there and it's like, are you gonna fucking pay your shit, and you're not gonna get a job because you really want this, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
you got to find a way to fucking square it up. So I started just dropping consistently, and like that was my big thing, is like I always made music, but I never dropped it consistently. So putting it out regularly finally brought in like those first bits of sales and stuff, and you start developing relationships with artists that they're actually reaching out to you instead of just you reaching out to them, because then it's a different situation, you know what I'm saying? Because when you're reaching out to send beats to them, you're in the position where you're like not asking for a handout, but it's a different bit of leverage, you know what I mean? So
right.
you don't even get to really think about that until you start flipping that script and getting some people to reach out to you. So kind of just taking that time and like building with people that I really not only like obviously see a business future with, but more importantly, I fucking believe in the music. Like when obviously working with Matt and stuff, like that shit like drives my soul. You know what I mean? Like I love the sound that we create, and like so I'm always looking for that, where like not only is the music good, but I also really like the person, and I really see like we could push forward on something. So like you're making those sales, but you're also you're gonna find like you have to keep your eyes out for those artists basically where you really start feeling like, okay, we could do something, you know, special on a project together, whether it's now or in 10 fucking years, you know what I mean? Because if you look at these guys like that are, like I said, goats, these guys are 30, 40 plus.
Yeah.
Like they've been in this shit forever.
Mm-hmm.
And the shit that we listen to, all those records that are favorites, like they weren't even getting fucking bread from. They're sampled mixtape shit that they're not even getting cheese on. So it's like, we're like, oh, they're goats, but like they're fucking, they're probably bent on those times because they weren't getting paid the way they deserved. You know what I mean? And like, obviously now they're seeing those placements and stuff, but like, you kind of just had to like, okay, you know, don't get caught up in like all these like 15-year-old producers flexing 50 bands on their head and like a bunch of shoes and stuff. Like, see that there's more behind it. So like that really forced me to kind of learn the business side too, and just like, okay, like these producers that are like flexing and stuff, like not most of them, but I'm gonna say like a good amount of them, like they're in debt or like fucking, you know, flexing cheese that they don't have, or like counting or like taking an advance and flexing on that, but then they're probably not even going to get out of their deal type stuff like that. So like you never really know the full story behind what's going on with that. So I really had to get over that because that was starting to bother me as I'm like trying to get it out of the mud. Like you're seeing all this all the time. This is like pre TikTok, all that. I'm not even on that shit. You know, this is just from what I saw alone. It was like, God. So just like building with people that you really fuck with and learning as you go on the business side so that you're not going to get absolutely wrecked when you finally are in a position to land those, you know, those songs and those records and be on those projects and work with those different brands and stuff. Because if your shit's not squared up, you're going to be in trouble at that point, you know? So honestly, just growing slow was like my main focus, and building up with different artists directly. And then that's honestly how, like, building up into those bigger, I guess, placements were even like Cardo reaching out and Sainte obviously locking in with me and kind of taking that to where it's gone. Like that was all just organically. He had one song out. It was a fucking, you know, complete from scratch, like just built on the top of itself. Like it took a while, you know what I mean? It wasn't overnight. And that's what I was really grateful for, honestly, was because that allowed me to like get all my ducks in a row, like mentally and physically and stuff. Cause like I didn't want shit to just blow up right away because I wasn't even ready, like personally, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, that's kind of, I would say, like how I started moving up in a sense of like the placement size, but I never really even thought of it like that because I was more focused on making the best art that I could and building with people that I really rock with. And then I knew that everything else was really going to sort itself out because I really don't care about like sure, I have goals and of like accolades and shit, but like I really don't give a fuck about that stuff compared to making good music and spending a lot of good time with my family and loved ones. You know what I mean? Like that shit's way more important. And just like, I just knew it would sort itself out. So it just, yeah.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because it seems like our generation, everybody's doing it in sort of a different way. There's so many different platforms, so many different avenues for getting attention and eyeballs, and just making money off of music is a very interesting thing because there's so many different lanes to doing it. And obviously you've had some kind of non-traditional routes. I'm curious how the Netflix thing, how does that happen? Do you wake up to a message in your inbox saying, hey, we're licensing your song for a show here, and Cardo reaching out? How do those things come into place?
So well, I guess the Cardo thing was, I mean, I had less than 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. He found one of my fucking beats and was like, yo, he DM'd me and was like, your shit's, you know, I sampled your shit's fire. Like, let's lock in. And like, I was like, oh my fucking God. Like, are you kidding me? Like, this is like This is who I've like looked up to my, not my whole life, obviously, but like my whole like adult production life. You know what I mean? I was like, this is nuts. Like I couldn't even believe it. Like, so that was just super organic. He found me and reached out, which was, a dream come true. So just like, and again, same with the Netflix stuff. Just they reached out about, possibly using the record, because that's the thing. Like these guys, they have to edit in so far in advance. Like they like pre-fucking screen sometimes some of these things like a year plus, like in advance before they even do the edits. And that's like, if it's going to get down to that, and then they fucking edit, and like if they use it, then they're going to move forward. So it's like it can take a long fucking time just to like even know if it's real or not. You know what I mean? Like a billion things could change, the project could get scrapped, etc. And like you can't say shit until it's out, so you're just like, so that like came out. I was waiting on that like to figure out if it was even going to move forward, you know what I mean, on the editing side for like over a year. So like, and that's great. I had no experience with Netflix as far as a sync, so I just didn't know like what to experience, and just like having to fucking be patient and just like trust that it's gonna work out if it's supposed to be. And it might not. You might not get on the fucking thing. It might not be your time to get that sync or whatever. So like also kind of like coming to terms with that is part of it as well. So and like, yeah, just fucking hashing everything out. That's always fun, just getting that all squared away. So it's like it's a good time once it's all finally good to go. So but yeah, a lot of it is just really just putting in that fucking work on the art side, and knowing that like however it gets out, like it's going to do what it needs to do. And that doesn't even mean it's going to do insane, but like eventually the sound will build up and get you to where you need to be. That's just how I kind of always looked at it. And like that fucking Netflix record, that's like, that song literally came out over 2 years ago or whatever. And then, but it was a demo for over 2 years before that. And then the beat itself was like made in parts. Like I made the melody and then did the drums later. So it's like, it takes like, you just never know. And it's like, it could be that one. It could be this one that you think it's going to, the one that you think it's going to be. And it's like some other random fucking track, it's just really, really funny to see how it plays out. But yeah, just the way I think of it, it's a lot on the art side and then letting it work itself out. So.
So for the guys that I mentioned out there that are doing the type beat stuff on YouTube,
Yeah.
There's a lot of influencers in the music space doing YouTube how-tos, breaking down different plugins and whatnot.
Right.
And you've amassed a pretty good following on YouTube. All of your videos, you have a lot of fans that leave comments. Have you picked up any tidbits or tips along the way for a type beat channel and just YouTube search engine optimization in general that you could share?
I'm gonna be honest, bro. I think the shit has changed so much that I feel almost like an old man as far as like the way the music is being distributed on, or like the way the beats are being consumed now. Cause like I honestly took a break from YouTube for this past year for like 6 months, just because I was like frustrated with the changes almost. And like, not even like I felt like my art was better than the response that it was getting. And I knew that it wasn't anything with like me almost. Like I had to look into it more, and shit really has changed. Your eyes, people's eyes are completely elsewhere than they were before, especially when I started my channel. So like at this point, I'm in a period where I'm trying to learn as much as I can to redistribute my tactics as far as dropping shit, because currently the strategies that worked before, honestly, I don't think they really work right now as far as like getting optimum reach. I mean, kids are posting fucking screenshots of their their beat software for 15 seconds and like memeing it and and like now it's like that's the thing. Like I feel like an old fart with this shit, honestly. You know what I'm saying? So, but as far as like I've learned up to this point, the best YouTube advice that I can give is really not. It's not search based or anything. It's more so to just be like make a channel that you're really passionate about, like because this shit's a fucking grind, and you gotta like really love what you're making to do this full time because it's going to be taxing. You're going to have a lot of years of getting it off the ground, but like that's okay if you really love the shit because that's going to give you plenty of time to experiment with your sound. You're going to get to connect with people on the channel that are going to fuck with you for the long term, and that's what's most important. So I don't have all the tips or the tips and strategies right now for like how to optimize your drops because really what I've just been doing is dropping a beat a week for years, and that's pretty shit. It hasn't really changed on my front on that side. So, and I don't really think I'm going to change that sense. It's just I know I need to continue expanding and learning more on that sense. But I really have been focused on creativity and the family front and letting everything else sort itself out, and that's done just fine. So.
Do you ever feel like as a creative person that you have to give yourself space to live in between your creative tasks or things that you're working on? Like get inspired by life and the things that happen to you and then sit down and it's almost like it just comes out.
Oh yeah. I had to learn that because like when I first was getting started and like on like my full-time production or whatever, I was just like, I literally just looked at a calendar for 2019. I was like, I'm going to wake up at 5. I'd literally fucking wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning because my roommate would stay up super late and like I'd have the whole morning to myself, So like I'd wake up dumb fucking early and just start cooking and drinking coffee and cooking and drinking coffee. And then like by like literally 1 or something, I'm like 8 cups deep. My fucking heart's like going like this. I'm like thinking like everything I made is fire, but it's like really just forced. And like it literally took you like probably a year of that. And I was so frustrated and mad with myself. I couldn't figure it out, like what it was. And like, then like I watched like some interview. I can't even remember who it was, but it was like it might've been Pierre. And he's like, I'm playing games all the time and shit. And like, he'll make some beats and then he'll clock out and watch, some fucking animated shit or play a video game for a long time or whatever. And like, I was like kind of learning more from that, or like people that they really spend a lot of time with their family or their dogs or do activities during the day to like break it up. And it took me a long time to like really start integrating that into my process. And now like, that's exactly what my process is. It's like I wake up, the first couple hours of my day are just like getting, started with, the dog and everything, and my girlfriend, getting her out the door and everything for her work day. And then like, that's my first little bit of living. All right, put my whatever the fuck I'm feeling into the sound for a couple hours, then clock out, hang out with my dog, make lunch, chill, go fucking, play games or whatever, and just read, do a bunch of other stuff, and then lock back in on a few more ideas. And then like that's pretty much like my routine for the past couple of years, and that's been way better creatively, I felt, than like all my previous ones where I'm just like on the grind 24/7. And like, yeah, it shit eats at you, especially the way that artists work. Because at least from what I've seen, when I had to like be in the mix all the time, like especially in my time in California, like I'd be fucking working on shit all day, and then like they're recording dumb late, and like that shit is not like the longevity in that. It's just not there for me. I can't do it. Like I'm not going to be okay for a long time. And like I had to really learn what's the most important. And like I want to make art, like really good art, for as long as I fucking can. And like I have to be, my ears have to be working and my hands have to be working for all that to happen, So kind of learning to prioritize those elements instead of just, okay, I need to grind 24/7. And it's hard because I'm wired to grind all the time. My parents, that's how they are. My dad would be, in the office all day, come home, read science journals until he goes to bed. It's like he's always fucking learning about shit. And it's like that I'm ingrained in that, but I have to like kind of unprogram it.
Isn't it strange how the ear kind of gets tired? Like you can hear something the night before and then just sleeping on it and listening to it the next day, and it'll sound completely different.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
In just hearing the same thing over and over again.
For sure.
Yeah, fresh ears. It's a concept that I never even thought would be a thing before I got into music.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any side hustles that you do outside of music or interests?
For what do you mean, like side jobs to?
Yeah, like do you work outside of music at all?
No, I just do music full time.
Nice.
I mean, when I was, in California, fucking getting it going, like, I mean, I was doing I was helping people get into medical school and shit, like helping them with their essays and shit, just on the side, to squeeze through a couple months here and there. But like that was just like literally once or twice. Everything else was just straight music from. I mean, it was grindy for a bit, but it's solid now. So, but yeah,
what about
say that again?
Yeah, what about interests outside of music?
Oh yeah, no, I fuck with hockey a lot. I played hockey my whole life. I like snowboarding as well. That's kind of been more recent, I'd say. I play a good amount of video games. I've redirected a lot of my time into reading this past couple of years, but I definitely still enjoy gaming a lot. So, and then reading has been also really, really important. But probably more than all that is just spending time with my girlfriend, my dog. That's definitely like the most important thing to me as far as, extra time that I have in the day, how I want to spend it. So that's probably how I'd rank everything right there. That most important than everything else under it.
That's beautiful. It sounds like you have a nice balance going.
Yeah, no, I think that I do. I'm always I always am trying to tinker it. I feel like sometimes it can shift almost. It can obviously shift either way too far. Too much work or too much hanging out with your family or whatever. But I never feel like that can be too much. It's more so like you also are like, okay, I got to fucking lock in for this project or lock in for this next little bit. It's easy to get comfortable sometimes, especially when like you have the at-home studio and stuff. It's just like I'm not having to travel to lock in on like a rented space like it was, when you're fucking going to record other sessions and stuff like that. So you kind of get like that flexibility, which can be good or bad. So, but yeah, no, the balance is something I'm always trying to work on, and just like learning from like kind of how some of these other people are taking it. Like I feel like there's not really that many good, honestly, sources of guidance in the production community as far as like the family side. Like, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I haven't really seen many like famous producers with like a wife and kids or a partner and kids and like not on their like fifth fucking divorce or like have all sorts of like shitty things going on the family side. And obviously you don't know everything, but like just from that front, like I always wanted that component to be different. And that's why I make some of the sacrifices that I don't give a fuck about going to the club or going to late sessions or locking. I don't need to be in every video or I don't need that side of the artistry side where like producers try to cross in on the artistry side almost like with the FaceTime. I don't give a fuck about that. Like I just want to make really good art, let them, get their shine, and I'll be at home with my family. That's kind of like the mentality that I've been trying to really drive home. So yeah.
And that's the ultimate goal, right? I feel like everybody wants to get rich. Everybody wants to be super successful, but then what do you do once you have all that? I feel like that's something that not a lot of people think it through to the very end. But in my eyes, and it sounds like yours too, it's we want this money, we want this success at whatever projects we're working on to have more freedom, to have more time with loved ones, and not the other way around.
Exactly. And I'm like, it's like, honestly, for a bit, I didn't see how like wealth and financial success and stuff was compatible with relationship stuff, because I never really saw it like growing up. Every kind of rich couple that I ever saw, and like my friend circle or whatever, they usually were divorced, you know what I'm saying? Or like shit was usually going down, whereas like I didn't even want the extra, whatever they had didn't even seem worth it, and like what they lost. But then like learning about other experiences, obviously like that's not the only way that a successful family can exist. So just like, yeah, taking learning lessons from wherever you can. And like I'm very fortunate to, you know, have fallen in love with my girlfriend super early. Like we met in high school or met in middle school and started dating in high school, and I've been dating all the way through, and you know, she's my girl for life for sure. So it's like I was very, very fortunate to like not even have to, I guess, like question it or like go down a different rabbit hole of like prioritizing other stuff first. Like she was always number one in the sense, obviously she knew music was always number one as well. They got to share that space. Like I'm going to lose my fucking mind if I don't create. So she knows that and has learns to accept that part of me as well. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, I haven't had to or even like question that element. It's always been like, this is what we're working towards, is whatever we're going to have for the future, you know?
Man, first of all, I super appreciate your time. It's really a pleasure to talk to you because I've been a fan of your work for so long, and it's nice to now know that you're just as good a person as you are a producer. There's just a few things left that I wanted to touch on with you. Just curious about your takes.
Sure.
A few months
thank
ago,
you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. The amount of AI music that was floating around the past couple months, have you paid any attention to that?
I honestly haven't really. Like I really haven't. I felt like the only thing that I heard was like someone had dropped a record and it got like a bunch of streams, and then they like realized it was AI and took it down or whatever. But that was the only thing that I had really heard about it. So I kind of try to keep my fucking whatever those things on that the Budweiser horses got. I try to keep those rocking. You know what I mean? But yeah,
it's interesting to me. Well, you're even speaking on just how technology has changed since we were kids. I was the same way as you, driving around in my car with literal CDs before Bluetooth was even accessible. And now the way we listen to music has changed with Spotify and different apps. The way we make music has changed with the computers. So I'm always just curious to talk to different people in music about their experiences with technology. Because again, everybody's doing it in a super different way.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you look for in a sample? Are you a guy that digs through samples at all?
Oh, since probably 2019, since I started my channel, everything I've made has been from scratch. And if it's not, it's been something that's I own through like the machine library or whatever. But I'd say 99.9% has been made through scratch, with like a few of the loops being from machine. But yeah, so but sampling is something that I like all my favorite producers sample. So like and I didn't know that. that was almost like, bro, like I came into this, I was like, how are these guys making these fucking insane melodies? Like I just couldn't believe it. And I was like, because I'm going to launch my keypad, and I'm like, my shit sounds like ass. Like, this is terrible, bro. Like, there's no way I could fucking do it. And then, like, years later, I found out, like, they're literally all samples. And that was after I'd fucking grinded it out and figured out how to start making the melodies from scratch. But, like, I didn't know, I literally didn't know that. So, like, it was just, like, ignorance on my part to, like, not know that that was, like, literally the foundation of fucking hip hop. So going back and learning about the history of production and the history of sampling and how that fundamentally shifted everything, I started really treating my melodies as samples. So, like, I'm thinking about how to sample it, but I'm looping myself. So, like, I would say that what I'm looking for when I'm writing my own melody to sample is honestly just feeling. Like, it's a groove or whatever, or like a tone. And really, it's funny because you might not even end up on that to be the final BPM or, you know, key or whatever. But I'm pretty much just trying to set up the alley-oop. So I'm creating like an atmosphere and experience. Like, really, I'm just channeling whatever I'm feeling and trying to put that into the music, basically. So, but my whole goal is to, like, I'm picturing it as if I'm going to hand it off to someone else and they're going to come in and fuck these drums up. And I mean, just absolutely fuck this shit up. Like, that's kind of like, I'm trying to do what that, like, because a lot of times you can overproduce it. So, like, you're really just trying to give that starting point, that spark of inspiration where, like, they're going to hear it and be like, oh my God, let me throw 3, 4, 5 things on this and it's fucking done. Like, it just needs to be, you know, that just needs that extra little bit, you know. And so, and like, learning that all these producers sample, that was also important because they all need melodies. Like, if not, they're going to have to clear it with like 15 fucking people on the same record. So it's like, and that gets really fucking complex. So that was, I recognizing that, okay, most of these guys aren't making their own melodies. Obviously, there's a massive amount of people now that are melody only or melody focused or whatever. But at the time, like, as far as it was, like, A-list wise, like, it felt like everyone was sample based for the most part, is what it seemed like, you know. So that kind of, like, just shifted the focus. So yeah, I'm just really looking for that soulful vibe when I'm making, like, my type of sound. So, and it's really just instinct. I mean, you're trying to not think. You're really just trying to turn off your brain and let the shit flow out, essentially, you know. But it takes a bit to be able to get to that, you know, because it's gonna sound shit for a while. At least it did for me. So
Right.
yeah.
Do you have your own record label?
I
Or
have
music
I
group?
have yeah, Sunset Music Group.
What's that?
So I started that just for currently it's just for my production and you know, just my music business and stuff. But I have plans to expand it for sure in the future. So it's just an official LLC business for my music instead of just, you know, being Parker Keegan, blah, 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 doing music, you know.
The reason I bring it up is, and this is the last thing that I have for you, just curious about your long-term goals, end goals, if such a thing is even possible in music. But I'm just curious where you want to go with your career.
Yeah. I see musically, I would say I'm trying to take a very similar path to Cardo, but be more on the melody side as far as, like, the music side. Like, I really want to obviously be involved in, you know, A-list shit as far as, like, you know, that type of record drop. But more importantly, I really want to build with people that I believe in. And that's what I feel like Cardo's done the absolute best job at doing. And, like, because he's locked in tight with people in every fucking sphere statistically, you know what I mean? And, like, and he doesn't give a fuck about that stuff because he cares just about making good shit. And that has led to all those being in all those different rooms. That's the way I view it. You know what I mean? So I really feel like taking that similar approach, but instead focusing on the melody side, because from a business side, I think that gives me more insight almost, because like they're having to bust it down with, like I said, how many people are on a sample, you know, and it could be people from 5 different businesses in different countries, and they got to clear it all. Like, that shit's a pain. So if like you can be the one that's handling the melody, and it's just a one-stop shop and stuff, you can kind of you have longevity, because you can make that record, drums on one melody, totally different drums on the same melody, 2 different records. It could be resampled 150,000 times. I don't know TikTok 30.0 when I'm gone. Like, they're going to be doing super hyper pop 3D remixes of like random shit from then. And like, if you're on the melody, you know what I mean? Like, it's different. So than just having the drum side. That's the way I'm thinking of it as far as longevity goes, because the melody shit is what lasts forever in my eyes, because all this stuff that they're sampling the same shit that was sampled from old samples before that. So it's like, it's the same melody that's being reinterpolated over and over and over again, but new drums are being added onto it. It might be twisted, it might be looped differently or whatever, but new drums are being added onto it, and it's being brought up to speed essentially. So that side of it really interests me from a creative aspect as well as a business aspect. And then like beyond that, obviously, so like the music stuff, I'd say like melody version of Cardo is the best like succinct description. And then beyond that, I have like definitely massive entrepreneurial interests beyond just music. You know, I definitely want to own multiple businesses, real estate, etc. Like, I have a lot of learning to do, but I really want to, it's going to be more than just music. So music is always going to be like the most important thing though for me, as far as like the creation aspect and that goes, because like I said before, I would not be here without being able to create, like, and I will not be here without being able to create. So it's like that always will have to be there no matter what. But I have like a lot of interest beyond just the music business.
Dude, that's awesome. I appreciate your time so much. Is there anything that you want to plug or link where people can find you or reach out?
I would say my website, prodparkerjazz.com, Instagram, Parker Jazz with 3 Z's because they're sleeping on me. And no, just kidding. Just 2 Z's was taken. But no, do you mind if I ask you a couple questions?
Sure.
All right. Kind of what's your take on the way social media is right now, and with the music business as well? Because like for me, my position is I'm trying to learn a relationship with social media that's not toxic, because I'm trying to utilize it properly. But every time I feel like I'm trying to dip my toe into this new kind of landscape, I feel like almost fucking poisoned by it. I don't know how to describe it. Like I was like ignorant of TikTok, ignorant of shorts, ignorant of reels. I didn't look into any of it for years. Didn't even have the fucking app, you know, like I just was really completely off of the grid as far as that stuff, because I frankly just didn't feel like I could utilize it without corrupting my mental space. At the time, that was way more important. So, but now I feel like I'm in a mental position to be able to utilize shit, but I'm starting to dip my toe back and I'm like, this shit feels weird. So just like, what are your thoughts?
I feel like there's no way around it being weird, because it is weird. It's this super recent technology that now opens us up to the entire world. And with a couple scrolls, you might see somebody getting sniped, or a naked chick, or just literally anything that the algorithm wants to throw at you. So it is difficult to protect ourselves mentally from hundreds of people just throwing up onto a screen whatever they feel like inserting into your subconscious mind every day. I'm like you. I was off of social media for most of my early 20s. I just didn't want anything to do with it. And now I see it as, one, a really amazing tool that if I want to succeed creatively and with a business, it is necessary for people to know about what I'm doing. So that's how I'm trying to use it. It is easy for it to get toxic, but I think if we're just going on there, post and ghost is a really good phrase that I've heard from Joe Rogan. Just get on there to do whatever we need to do, post, get off. And there's nothing more embarrassing to me than looking at my screen time. I'm like, that's 3 to 4 hours that I could so easily have put into something productive, and it just happened. So that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah. What are your thoughts as far as like music right now? And like what type of music are you listening to?
Man, I don't know. Like last night I got on YouTube and just found an album that had a bunch of Japanese letters on it. And it turned into some kind of cool, funky, like retro vibes, but I'll literally listen to anything. I love hip hop and rap just like you, but I love music from the 60s and 70s.
Oh yeah.
If it's good, I don't discriminate at all.
Yeah. What's like your biggest goal you're working on this year for either your business or the podcast or whatever?
So I took some time to actually write out just a 2024 plan. And some basic steps are getting a website, growing and expanding onto different platforms because so many are available now.
Right.
Actually opening an LLC and getting that business aspect of things lined up.
Right.
So just becoming more of a professional in all ways really is how I would describe it.
Cool. And what are you a reader at all? Do you read books?
Yeah, I love reading.
What are some of your favorite books you read recently or in general that you could recommend to me?
Okay.
Hold on, let me get my fucking notepad.
Oh, man. You're flattering me.
I'm serious about this shit. This shit's important.
It is. Reading's an underrated way to learn so much.
I slept on it for years, dude. Ever since school, I was against it almost. Like, it didn't. And then, like, I don't know. I realized, kind of like you were saying about the screen time shit, but more so for gaming. And I was like, all right, I could probably do something else with a couple hours in my day. So, all right, let's let it rip.
I think the book that has been the most influential on me in my life, just personally, is The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy.
Okay.
And it was influential to me because it's truly just about the subconscious mind, what it is, how the thoughts that we think become our reality. And I think I was just ignorant to that, ignorant to the power that we have within us to control our destiny, to control the actions that we take day to day. And the people who have made it to the top, they thought their way there. It was something that they could imagine for themselves in their mind. You know, like Tom Brady, just for example, I would imagine he created that persona for himself, that I will be the greatest quarterback in NFL history or whatever. And then he became it. Same for anybody else who's successful. It starts up here.
Yeah.
So that's probably the most influential book that I've read. What about you?
Most influential book, I would say The Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck. I don't know why, but it stuck with me forever. It's the only fiction book I've really read in my life, honestly, that I liked. But it was but it's I guess more historical fiction. It's just about like a Chinese farmer as like the technology, as like the industrial revolution is occurring, and just like, I don't know, I learned a lot about it, like taking about like the way they think about the land and how I think about music, and taking care of your family and kind of learning, growing through those changes. I like pull a lot from, so it's really interesting. But nonfiction, damn, I don't know. I got a lot of nonfiction books I've been rocking with. I'd say, let me see, hold on. I got to tell you the right name for it.
Sure.
I'd say either Empire of Pain, which is about the Purdue shit, or Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. I would highly, highly recommend reading that, even if you have the best parents on the planet, because you will learn a lot about how other people are and why they are the way they are. So those are probably my two favorite nonfiction books.
It is weird how a lot of who we are, I imagine, can be traced back to our parents or just how we were raised.
For sure.
And that's not something that we get a choice over. You don't get to push the button for, this is my dad, this is my mom. People just kind of, you get whatever you get.
Yeah. But like you said, that power of the subconscious shit, you can at least make some modifications on that front. So
definitely
it evens itself out, I suppose. But yeah, no. Hell yeah, man. Well, I appreciate your time too. Thank you so much for, for reaching out and the kind words and everything. And I'm looking forward to staying in contact, and I'm wishing you the best of luck as well with the podcast and everything.
Thank you, man. Best of luck to you too. I'm always tapped in with what you're doing. Looking forward to hearing new music, and I'll definitely stay in touch with you as we put this out and see if we can't link up on something else in the future.
Cool. Sounds good, man.
Sweet, Parker. Nice to meet you.
All right. You too, bro. Have a great day.
Peace.
Peace.